Welcome to Linux for the Rest of Us, episode number 23. In the show here, this Linux show, we talk about Linux geeky stuff. Stuff that's suitable for novices, intermediate, expert, and all around every person who wants to know a little bit about Linux or a lot about Linux. What we do is we go over, Linux news, distributions, cool websites, and more. And it's all brought to us by our Linux maven, the door-to-door geek, Steve McLaughlin. You can see him on your screen there if you're watching on video. What's going on this week, Steve? How you doing?
Hello, all. All in all, I'm doing good. Just, shortened week at work somehow leads to more work. So I'm not sure how that works, but I'm definitely busy this week. I've actually had a couple clients call up with little issues, empty their sandbox, and they pay me, and I'm happy.
It is a unique setup you have for you're talking about your computer repair guys, your client customers. You basically make their computers virus proof. And what could they possibly call you about now?
Well, I'm not going to claim virus proof because that's really
okay.
Wow.
Well, let me just say, I'll be more precise. You set up sandboxes for their browsers, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say virus retardant.
Okay. Do you run it on Linux?
Most of my users, I don't want to push over that far, that quick. I think I would lose them. So what I do is, no matter what Windows operating system they're on, they're all just as vulnerable, 64, 32, Vista 7, whatever. But I do a combination of Sandbox IE, my Woot, Web of Trust. I do ThreatFire, and what I did in the last couple of weeks on Raymond.cc, he posted a way how to get Kaspersky 2011 free for 1 year. So when I have customers right now call me up with issues, I go install that.
Okay,
but
a lot of times,
a
lot of times you just got to go empty their sandbox.
99.99999% of the time, right click, sandbox, empty, done, PayPal me the money.
That's good, Dor. All right. Well, this show's about Linux, so let's talk about some Linux stuff. What do you want to go over first?
Well, I first just wanted to talk about this email we got from
John
in the UK.
Sure.
He basically sent us with a couple questions and comments about the show. He's a fan of it and a fan of the new Podnutz Pro, which I gotta say I am as well. I really like hearing Matt talk about enterprise stuff because it's typically completely different than what we as normal people are accustomed to.
Oh yeah.
So it's really good stuff. His question was, he has some old PCs knocking around the house, and he wanted to install a Linux firewall on one. He said this PC would be dedicated. This PC would be a dedicated standalone firewall. It does have 2 NICs in it, and he's hoping to plug in the wireless router to it as well, and so they could all of his network traffic could be piped through that box.
Right.
He basically says this is purely for experimental purposes. First, he asked, is this even possible? And second, he asked, what is the best distro to use and what's the best program to use for the firewall? And is there anything I need to do / avoid when figuring?
Okay.
And I gotta say, he said, sorry for the long email. I don't mind long emails.
That was not a long email.
Right. And I got to say, when they ask good questions, I don't care.
Right.
It can be 10 pages long. They're good questions.
You should have seen the email sorry to off track. You should have seen the email that somebody sent me to read on My Hard Drive Died. It was separated by numbers and then broken down into subcategories with letters next to the numbers, like 4A, 4B, 4C. And I said, this is a behemoth email. And I said, send it directly to Scott. So we sent it directly to Scott, and he goes, Steve told me to send you this with his one-line email. I'm like, it's just too long, man. I mean, come on. So yeah, just send emails within reason. And John's is definitely
Right.
within reason.
Well, yeah, because I'll wholeheartedly admit, you send a 10-page email, we're only going to comment on or quote, a paragraph.
Sure. Exactly.
Well, the first thing I wanted to say, here's one of the almost dirty secrets in enterprise and in any kind of industry where you do need a enterprise strength router / firewall. It's always Linux or BSD. The best, most comprehensible, most widely used enterprise grade firewalls are running Linux. So it's definitely possible. And I'll also make a little challenge. Anything you can comprehend of doing on a computer or have a computer do, Linux can do. There's nothing special that makes Mac only possible to edit this kind of movie, or there's nothing special in Windows.
No, I disagree. I disagree.
I didn't say edit them to your standards. I just said edit them.
You made a statement there that I think is wide is the scope of which means everything is how you worded it. And I think that there is software to do a lot of things in Linux, but some software is not all software is not cross-platform. So there are programs on one that won't be able to do things on the other, and vice versa. I mean, there's things that I'm sure for Linux software that Windows and Mac can't do.
Right. Well, the caveat with that statement is because nothing is all encompassing, all white and all black. It depends on the level of detail of something that you want to do. If you just say, I want to edit video, well, then you can do it in any operating system possible.
Right.
If you have standards that you want to meet, I want to be able to do these effects and I want to do it in a environment that I'm accustomed to, well, then your choices are severely limited.
Right.
And I mean, it's the same thing with almost every kind of software possible, whether it's a web server, whether it's an FTP server, whether it's a word processor or a game. I mean, if you just say, I want to play games, you can do them in any operating system.
If we get that general, sure. Absolutely.
Right. And even if you say, I want to play first person games, well, you can do them in every operating system. If you say, I want to play Call of Duty Modern Warfare, well,
you're out of luck.
You already know the answer to that. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm not trying to be like a Weisenheimer in saying Linux can do anything. If you have basic goals, it can.
Right. No, I'm not even saying that. I'm saying that not all software is cross-platform. So there are going to be programs that exist on one that will not run on the other, and vice versa. I wouldn't go as far as to say Linux can do things that Mac and Windows can't do. But
well, yeah, it's like the never-ending Jacob's ladder.
Yeah, right.
Because there's always something better someplace else for something. You know what I mean? Like,
so just have all of them.
Yeah, and honestly, that's what I always say. Use what you got to get what you want.
Right.
Don't overstress. Don't overwork. Don't make things harder than you have to. And when it comes to a personal firewall, hardware firewall, or an enterprise firewall, I honestly, my heart of hearts, believe Linux or BSD is the best solution and the easiest solution.
I would imagine it would be better than Mac or Windows, wouldn't it?
Well, the problem with Windows is then that box itself needs to be monitored for infections, exploits, patching.
When running Windows as a firewall box is probably not a good idea.
It's not a good idea, but I can tell you there are enterprise solutions out there. They are Windows boxes. And the advantage to them is you have better, more complete integration with products like Active Directory. Many open source products support Active Directory in a limited manner. Matt would be the better guy to answer this question, but I believe LDAP, which is a standard of access control, rights management, login credentials, like Active Directory. But LDAP is a limited directory account
privilege. Is that Linux?
Not Linux per se. It's just a protocol. It's like saying HTTP.
Okay.
It's something that can be used on any system.
Gotcha.
And the first answer I'll say is, first off, he said one thing very right. He said he had a computer with 2 NICs. If you have 1 NIC, it's technically possible to have all of the traffic incoming and outgoing of 1 NIC,
Right.
but then it becomes a nightmare to have something on the end of that cable that can intelligently decipher which way is the traffic going.
Right. Okay.
So it's possible, but really not worth your time. Spend the $15, get a second NIC.
Okay.
And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. It's a two-way street. You have stuff coming in, you have stuff going out. So you want 1 cable going to your modem and 1 cable basically going to your router.
Right.
Now, what most people do when they do this, they totally disable the firewall on their router.
Okay.
And some systems will also tell you to totally disable DHCP, which is the automatic IP addressing system, and basically hand that over to the beige box, we're going to call it. It's just a janky box.
So it becomes a router.
It becomes a switch, more or less, because a router, from my belief, has multiple ports. And a switch is a piece of hardware that deciphers and shoots out the traffic.
Yeah, but if it has DHCP, I thought that's what was one of the things that made up a router. But
honestly, I'm not going off of any formal education when I make these statements.
It's like you said a couple shows ago. What we say on here is not to be written in stone.
Right. This is a pure fun experience kind of thing. And okay, now I'm going to make one also comment up front. There's 2 ways you can do this with a beige box. You can install on bare metal, it's always called, where you basically put a CD in and you install straight to that hard drive. There's pluses and minuses to that solution. I honestly prefer loading a base operating system and then loading a virtual machine host on there and then loading the firewall in that virtual machine.
Why?
Well, I like it for one specific reason. When you have one of these in your house, uptime is vital. If that goes down, everything in your house goes down. If a bug happens or a glitch happens or an update breaks this or something, then you can't go on the internet. You know, this is very vital. With a VM, it's very easy to disable all automatic updates inside of the operating system. Take what's called a snapshot. And all a snapshot is, it's like sticking in Clonezilla to your operating system and saying, make a backup image of the whole drive.
Right.
But in VM world, a snapshot is click and seconds later, you're done.
Right.
And by seconds, I literally mean like 2 seconds.
Because the VM is basically a large file, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
All it is a virtual hard drive, and on your host operating system, it's a single solitary file.
Yeah, so it's easy to copy that.
It's very easy to copy it. Very easy, if something breaks, to close down that VM and say restore the snapshot. No rocket science, no scripts, no menu choices to jump around through it. It's typically a 1-button thing.
Would installing it as a VM, though, hinder performance at all?
It will to a degree, but here's the gimmick. Virtually everything I'm going to mention about firewalls, you can seriously run on sub 300 megahertz processors with whatever kind of NIC suits your need. If you're on a gigabit LAN, then you want gigabit Ethernet cards. The amount of delay you're going to experience from a lower end processor, and to be fair, I would say try not to get anything below a 900 megahertz processor. But if you stick with a 900 megahertz processor, the amount of delay you're going to witness because of that processor is really minimal.
Okay.
That I'll say. Of course, if you have a quad core, delay would not exist.
Right.
But I'll say if you don't have to get that, and I seriously think any performance degradation will be controllable at least, because these routers we have, technically, they slow down your traffic as well, because there is something on that box that has to stop and compute. It reads the headers of the packets and say, where do they go where do they go? This is basically putting it on a more powerful computer.
I see.
So the delay really shouldn't be noticeable. And I'll say it is possible. He, at the very end, I believe he says he wants to use a wireless router in the process. Yeah, he said, I'm hoping to plug in the wireless router into the firewall PC so that all devices can connect through that. That is absolutely possible. No ifs, no ands, no buts. Done.
Okay.
All you got to do is, depending on the distro, figure out, do you have to disable DHCP and let the beige box do it, or should the router do it? Most of the time it's the beige box.
Okay. So what distribution should he run, Dor?
Well, the first one I'm going to say is like saying when somebody asks me what Linux should they install. The answer is always, come on, Steve.
Whatever is best for you.
Linux Mint.
Oh, shoot.
Okay, I see how this is.
No, you didn't say a newbie. You didn't say a newbie.
Well, if they're asking, then to me they're a noob.
Okay. I would have got the answer to that.
Okay. Because it's simpler, easier, less complex to get started out of the gate. Comes preloaded with almost everything you need, kind of thing. So it's basically hit the ground running.
Okay.
When it comes to a beige box firewall, I will say, in my eyes, which I do have glasses on, unequivocally, the answer to this question is the Staro security gateway. Now, one precursor to me saying that I should have said is, most of the time, what these devices are called, or these systems are called, they're called UTMs. Unified Threat Management, because just doing firewall duties is very simple, very easy. Why not at the same time protect your entire network from intrusion, unwanted outbound traffic, malware, viruses, even exploits?
Is Astaro free? That's in a Linux distro?
Okay, Astaro for commercial use cost, the box itself is like $99, and then per month, I want to say it's $50 a month. For home use, completely free. It's limited to, I believe, 50 internal IP addresses.
And it's a computer, or is it a box?
Well, if you want the official branded device, you have to pay for it. If you want the ISO install, which is a Linux distribution, you can basically download the ISO and install it on any beige box.
Neat. All right, so they sell a distribution, and it's absolutely free for personal use. That's pretty cool.
Well, to me, it's better than the freemium model, because the hardcore geeks, who are going to be the ones who should be listened to the most in business, then can download it for free, play with it, toy with it, experience it, and then go into work and slam their fist on the desk and say, "We need this."
Right. No, I mean, hey, however they make their money is fine. I just had no idea that it was a separate distro that can be used. Is it Linux based?
Yeah.
Huh.
Absolutely. Because they can't make it Windows based, because then they wouldn't be able to distribute it for free.
I see.
Also, I'll say they have a pre-compiled, pre-configured VMware image. Here's the super plus to the configuration, because he said, what things should I do or avoid when figuring? Well, the number one thing to me is always hardware compatibility, making sure things work optimized how they should, yada, yada, yada. With a virtual appliance, they're called, which is just that virtual hard drive you download. The huge, unbelievable plus to that is every VMware workstation, server, player, whatever you want to install and load the VM on, they all emulate the exact same hardware. So when you download this appliance, all the quote-unquote hardware drivers are already installed, configured, and optimized for you. And I'll say the interface to that system is a web gateway. So once you install it, it becomes a headless system. That when there's no monitor, no
Right.
keyboard, no mouse.
Right.
So you literally take the box and you shove it in a hole. Well, with good ventilation. And then from your other computer, via a web interface, you access the management console. And I gotta say, this is the most hands-free, easy to set up software, firewall, router, UTM I think there is.
Really?
I honestly believe it. I set it up like 3 years ago, and I downloaded it again like six months ago, and it actually looks cleaner than it did before. And before, I had near zero issue. The only issues I had was acronyms they had in the menus. Like back then, I did not know what QoS was.
Right.
So I had to go Google it. But I'll also say this system has been around for, I want to say, around 6 years. They've won, and I'm going to put this in air quotes, over 66 awards for their software. And it really does branch from everything from Citrix ready, which means the firewall is already optimized and ready for ingoing and outbound Citrix connections without any manual configuration.
Damn.
That's a big plus for a small business in my eyes. They also won like open source awards, even though part of the system is open source, part of the system is closed source. I gotta say, they've won so much stuff. They've been around for such a long time. Mitch, our good friend Mitch, his son is a head network engineer administrator, which means anything he wants to go on his network goes on his network. Anything he does not want on his network does not go on his network. He uses this product, and he definitely says he appreciates its flexibility and how it works.
Huh.
And, you know, there's, to me, no better award you can get than from somebody who actually uses it. I'll also say one of the big pluses that I just learned about was it is RSA secured approved. Everybody's seen on people's key rings those little tokens, or even like the PayPal credit card is an example of one that just gives you like a 6 or 8 digit number. That's an RSA token. They're the main vendor for it, which means you can contact RSA, get your own personal token through a graphical web interface. You can set up that token, and then you then have VPN access to your Astaro gateway via VPN with that token.
Wow. It's kind of funky.
It's another level of power, which I'm sure John's not going to need, but it's always better to have more functionality than you need.
This sounds like a really cool thing, especially if you're just playing around with it, to really dig into and see what you can do.
Right. And the one thing I forgot, the install media is not only free. That's free. You also get free Astaro Up to Date, which is like saying you could get Kaspersky for free, but then you couldn't get updates to the antivirus. So what good is it?
Right.
With a Astaro Up to Date, it has like inline, I want to say a total of 5 scanners that scan email, web traffic, and other protocols traffic for nastyware, malware, exploits, intrusions, and everything else. And it automatically updates. And I'll say, I don't have the list in front of me. The products they use are all products we know and most of us respect, i.e. not McAfee,
right,
or that kind of stuff. I want to say it was Kaspersky, G-Data might have been one of them. So this really is, to me, the complete solution, very hands-off. The downside to this, because to me everything's a double-edged sword, is you're not going to learn a lot.
Right.
Because you're just going to set it up, bang, go. The only thing you're going to learn really is more the admin side of the system.
It still might be a good thing for a first step, you know?
Oh, to me, it's a great thing to do for this, just for the experience of, you know what to expect on other products. There's nothing wrong with setting the bar high first.
Right. Jordan, now some people in the chat were talking about Untangle, and we mentioned that on a couple shows. Would that be a good solution for this as well?
That was the next one I was going to mention.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're good. With Untangle, they also have a pre-compiled, pre-configured VMware appliance. Every single one I'm going to mention just about has a pre-configured, pre-compiled VMware appliance. Just because it's so, it takes a certain amount of the hassle out of the equation. Here's the thing I really like about Untangle. One, it's Debian based. Debian is the Linux distribution that is one of the most stable on the market, which means all of a sudden one day you come in and you're not going to have issues. It's so rare for that system to break. It's just solid. And it continues to be solid. Part of the reason, because like Fedora is like hovering right on that bleeding edge. You know, They're dancing on the razor's edge with some of their stuff, but they still honestly turn out a pretty stable product. Debian is like they're behind on a couple versions of software, like I want to say PHP and Python, where everybody's using like version 5 and version 3, I believe.
Okay.
Debian stable is like using, I think, like 4.8 for PHP and 2.8 for Python. So while technically they're a touch behind, what you gain is stability. You don't have to worry about stuff breaking with updates. You don't have to worry about stuff just randomly breaking.
Right.
You know, utterly, utterly, utterly solid. And to me, it is the most easiest Linux distribution to install software. Sudo apt-get, bang, anything under your heart. You know, it's done. Over 30,000 products.
You're talking about Debian.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Now, the other good thing about Untangle, its web interface is probably the most gorgeous to use web interface for a UTM that I've seen. It has an app store, which is, you and me both know, it's becoming insanely popular.
Right.
It has an app store in it, and what I like about it is, if you've ever seen a server cabinet or a switch closet kind of thing, everything is on racks, and they're all like stacked up. In the Untangle App Store, when you download and install apps, it adds the exact same kind of look and feel to where you have different appliances on your rack. And all of them allowed for a very intuitive configuration for those add-ons and plugins.
Right.
So you don't start out of the box with a lot of stuff, but all you do is go into the App Store and say, I want a QoS application. Then you go download the application. It appears in your rack. You click it, and then it's very easy to say, give my Skype traffic priority. Give my YouTube traffic less priority. Give my gaming platforms. It intuitively knows it has in their main QoS package game systems. So all Nintendo Wii, Sony PSP, and Xbox 360 traffic, it automatically opens up all the needed ports and grants those ports higher priority traffic. So if your brother or sister won't stop watching Hulu while you're playing games, you need to get an Untangle box.
And then just shut them down.
And just lower them down. And then just say, I don't know, you got to call Comcast.
That's awesome.
Now, the only downside with Untangle, to me, it's not really a downside. Some of their apps in their store are pay only. They have a Kaspersky scanner tool that will scan all the traffic coming in and out, and you got to pay, I want to say it's $30 a year for that.
Wow.
But it's one of those things, something that would get that heavily used, I personally don't mind paying.
$30 a year is actually not too bad.
Yeah. And they have such a wide range of add-ons and plugins for that system. I encourage anyone to just go look in the App Store that they have.
It looks like a really nice interface. I think they did a really good job with it.
Yeah, I gotta say, they're the kind of people that understand UI much greater than I. I basically don't get it, and everything I develop looks a little ugly, very functional and works, but doesn't look that good. And they do have what here it looks like on their featured product page, a educational standard product, provides network technology protection, measures schools need to filter the internet content for SIPA compliance, which is what the federal government passed to protect kids on the net. $1,700 a year. And I want everybody to just stop and think, that's not a lot of money. Your basic Cisco switch, which is only warranted for 90 days. I don't know how they get away with that. And then you need a Windows box on top of that to manage that. Right at the gate, starting off around $8,000 to $10,000.
Damn.
Granted, it's just like the movie editors things. If you have ultra specific needs, Untangle or a Starro might not be your best fit. So research them. But I can tell you, school systems, for instance, what they need isn't really the final answer. When you're dealing with government institutions, the final answer becomes, what can we afford? What can we get what can we afford that will fit most of our needs?
That'll do the job.
Yeah. So Untangled is one of those ones. Honestly, even if you don't plan on using it as a UTM or a firewall, I say install it in a VM and just load it and look at it. And to be honest, I think you're going to be shocked how good it looks and how easy it is to configure, which might make you go and get a used computer and slap that puppy on. It
does look cool, I have to admit. It passes my screenshot test.
I had to have one in there that did that. The next one that I wanted to talk about, I honestly didn't know about till Tracy Holtz, who I want to say the name of his website is The Tech Redneck, because he's down in Texas. For his personal business of computer repair, he's using a solution called Clear OS.
Okay.
And I'm not going to lie, I never heard of it before because I don't know everything, even remotely close. And every time I talk to Tracy, besides ragging on me quite heavily, he always educates me a little bit. So I put up with it. But the main features of this one really caught my eye. The very first feature they publicize is integrated LDAP for user and group management. And what that really means is if you have a Windows Active Directory server with a domain controller, you can go in and create a group that says limited internet. And then in the Clear OS, you can say limited internet equals no YouTube, no Facebook, no Twitter, no Meat Spin, no.
Dude, I can't believe you even brought up that site on this show.
I just want to throw you a curveball.
I'm listening.
Well, because it should be blocked, and that's why I said it.
Nobody go there. We're editing that out.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dor.
You can easily, with LDAP, identify groups of levels of access, because there is always going to be somebody inside your network that's going to need full unadulterated access. Even if you as a business want to block Facebook and Twitter, your business might want a Facebook and Twitter presence.
Right.
So then you have a limited group where the network admin is and the person who's going to caretake that data, and that's it. There's no super secret sauce things you have to jump through and say, well, these computers with these people logged in can only do this. And then it's, all that kind of stuff is way too complicated.
Sure.
When you have LDAP integration, it makes it so much easier.
And this Clear does that.
ClearOS, that's the number one feature they spout off, which to me is a good start, because just because you're running a Linux firewall doesn't mean they expect you should be running Linux inside your network. You're going to have Windows boxes until the end of time. You might as well work with them as best that you can.
Makes sense.
The other things I liked about these features was it has built-in VPN capabilities. So you can set up either PPTP, which is the one I suggest no one uses, IPsec or OpenVPN. So you can, in the ClearOS, easily through a GUI, set up VPN access, who can do it, how they can do it, and when they can do it, what can they access. I did load it in a VM just for that specific purpose, just to toy with it, and it looked pretty intuitive to me. It has what's called a stateful firewall. Stateful and stateless are one of the things you really got to go to Wikipedia and research. Basically, stateful is what you want. You do not want stateless. And typically when something is stateless, they don't say stateless firewall. They just say firewall, Right. So you always want that. It also has built-in DHCP and DNS servers. So it's even easier to control data flow and control access to data. You can say, Facebook.com equals 127.0.0.1. In other words, you try to access it, you ain't going nowhere. It also has built-in anti-malware, antivirus, anti-phishing, anti-spyware, anti-spam. Whew, that's a mouthful. All built into it as well. I believe they offer limited feature sets on each of them for free to get the full guards, the full protection. You do have to pay for it.
Okay.
But for a small business, you typically have to pay to really get something that really encompasses all your needs. I'll say that.
Yeah, they really get, every time there's, you have a business version of something, they're going to charge you something. But what did you think about the free version?
The free version to me seemed very full. I believe the only things you pay for is the professional support and for the advanced protection features. Everything else that this product offers is for free, but you get no support.
Gotcha.
So if you have the brains and the willpower and the time on your hands, you can set up all the other stuff for free for yourself.
Wow. Sounds like something fun to mess around with.
Yeah, and Tracy is in the very early stages of implementing this. I asked him if he could document not, what steps did I do, his feelings about it, what he really liked about how it was set up, and what really it was its shortcomings. And he said he was going to make an effort to do that.
Good. Cool.
Yeah.
So we'll hear about that on a later show, maybe.
Hopefully, as long as he doesn't disown me, because he always rags me, and that's okay.
About what? Or what could somebody possibly rag you about?
I just make a comment, and then he takes what I say and twist it, and I just, okay, Tracy. Go ahead, do your worst.
We'll have to get him back somehow.
Well, we could spam his PC repair business, but I'm not cool.
And put his ClearOS to the test.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that was just one of the, and you just remind me of one thing I wanted to just highlight real quick. A router is perfectly fine for most of your home needs. But if anyone knows about getting infected, the first thing any bad guy does, quote unquote, is they compromise the integrity of your system, irregardless of the operating system, and they contact other places on the internet, get orders, commands, command sets, or download more bad guys. So outbound protection is the one thing that Windows 7 offers to a degree.
Right.
Vista, I don't think did. I know XP does not. And virtually no home router solution will do.
Okay.
They basically let anything out. It doesn't matter. If it's coming from inside the network, it's trusted. If it's coming from outside the network, let's not trust it.
Right.
So with all of these UTMs, you can also have outbound protection. For instance, you don't want any computer on your network to ever access the China domains or something to that effect.
Right.
It's pretty easy to set up inside there. Not that everything out of China is bad. It just seems like a lot of the badware wants to go there and communicate. That or I would say Russia, but it's not Russia. It's Uzbekistan, I think, or something.
Okay.
And I've been out of that loop for a while. And one thing I wanted to just really, I keep forgetting to make this statement before, Steve. Everybody now heard of and knows about rootkits. No one knows where they originated from.
Okay.
We all have heard at least one point in time on a Linux system about root access. That's the super user access that can do anything on the computer. On a Windows box, it's actually system access. But on Linux and Unix, more precisely, it's root.
Okay.
Root kits were developed on Unix systems to infect Unix systems.
Really?
Yeah, that's why root kits. And what they did were they were little shims is what they were in the past. Shims that would go in the operating system kernel and retranslate inputs and outputs that people were doing.
Huh.
The perfect example is hiding files in a folder. You would go into a folder on the command line and say, list contents of this directory, ls command. And it would capture that request, look at what it was asking for, and filter what came back. The files existed, but when you did that command, they did not exist.
Wow.
Now, that is taken to the extreme on Windows on every level. When you look in your Windows Explorer, it's doing a request of listing of files.
Right.
Same process happens. It basically, nothing to see here. Here's the only thing that's there. So it's possible for any operating system to get infected. I wholeheartedly acknowledge that, but you got to go with the odds. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the odds are in Linux's favor at this point.
Well, yeah, it's like me fighting, I don't even know, because Arnold Schwarzenegger looks bad and Stallone's really short, and I don't know, Mike Tyson.
How about The Rock?
Oh, sure. Okay. If I, let me see here, hold on.
What are you getting?
If I am fighting The Rock, sure, it's possible I'm going to win.
Right, right.
But would you take those odds?
No.
Yeah. So I'll just say you got to go with odds on this. And with the Linux or BSD based firewalls, so much less to worry about. You know, you don't have to worry. You don't have to stress about, is something happening on that box that I'm not aware of? You have greater control and greater reliability.
Okay. I'm with you on that.
And the one thing I wanted to mention before I forget yet again, I'm going to go on to like 2 or 3 more firewalls, but there's something I forgot to show you, Steve.
What is that thing? Is that an Android watch?
It's not an Android watch. I don't have the money for that.
Is it a Zip It watch?
It's not a Zip It watch. I just hit something on the computer and the screen went black.
Yeah, I know. I'm just I barely got your video back.
Oh, I rotated the screen accidentally.
Okay. Well, you're back. I mean, I see you.
I know. Just give me 1 second. Now it's upside down. Big money, no whammies. There you go. Okay. It's a watch. Now, looking at it from this angle, you really can't see a lot.
No.
But here's the kicker. Are you ready?
Yeah.
If there's any question, any question of my geekiness, nerdiness, dorkiness, whatever,
This answers it?
this answers it.
Okay, what is this thing? Oh, man, it's it's LEDs.
Yes, it is. There's 72 individual LEDs on the watch.
What is it saying, though? P? What's P? And
P is PM. On the left-hand side of the watch, there's 12 rows of data.
Right.
12 lights, 12 hours.
Right.
It's right now up to 9 because there's 10, 11, 12. There's 3 empty spaces up there. And everything to the left of that is the minutes. So it's 9:21 right now.
Too much work.
Well, I got it A, because it's cheap. B, to be different.
Yeah.
And I did put up more than a couple of these watches out there, and Citizen X said to me, the second watch, too gay. Third watch, too girly. Just get the first watch. So I listened to a female's observation. She said this was the least feminine of them.
What do you mean? Where were they?
Podnutz.com/Amazon.
Thanks. That's okay. So that's pretty neat, Dor. That you just, I mean, that is. I guess if you look at it enough times, you get the hang of what time it is. You don't have to think.
I've had it for 2 days, and I can just go 9:24.
It looks so bright. Is it bright?
This is not the highest brightn't setting. I'll say that. It does get brighter, but I gotta say, the unknowing plus to this that I didn't compute into my head was my kids love it. Now Dad is by far the coolest guy ever.
Wow, really? That's awesome.
Until they figure out my dad's a dork.
That won't happen for a long time, Dor. Don't worry about that.
Trust me, I'm counting on that huge. Okay, that was total derailed. Let's get back real quick.
It's cool though.
The last two I wanted to talk about, they're old faithfuls. They've been around. They've stood the test of time. They might not be getting a lot of updates, let's say. They don't have the most intuitive interfaces. In fact, I don't believe one of them has an interface at all. It's all command line. And the first one is called PF Sense. PF Sense, I'm not going to say is enterprise grade, but it can do a huge amount of stuff. This is a free BSD based operating system, which, to be honest, in the world of stability, I feel comfortable with saying the BSD derivatives are, in general, more stable than Linux derivatives.
This does not look bad at all, Dor. This has got a nice interface, I think.
Well, then they must have updated that puppy. Because I ain't gonna lie, I haven't seen it in a while. I haven't seen it in a couple of years.
Okay.
Actually, it was mono wall, this was based off, I think, that didn't have
this looks like an interface of a router. I mean, it's about on the same level.
Gotcha.
Not bad.
Yeah. And it's pretty flexible. You're not going to get like the intrusion protection. Let me rephrase that. Sorry, they're going to hit me. You're not going to get the same level of UTM protection out of this as you will of a Star or something else. But this is, to be honest, virtually perfect for home use when they don't have a lot of needs. You know, and one thing I like about this is this gives you a very good idea of your network usage as well. So if you can say, you know, last night at 9:30, man, stuff was going really slow. You can go back in time and view stats.
Nice.
And you can figure out what's going on your network to cause issues that were happening.
Nice. I think that's key.
And this is the one a lot of hardcore graybeards like, because it's based off of BSD. This is based off of FreeBSD, I believe, and I believe NetBSD was the one. They've only had 2 exploits in 15 years.
Wow.
Where I don't think there's been a month in the last 10 years where Windows hasn't had at least 2 exploits. Not picking on them, I'm just saying.
Right. It's also probably much more in use than this thing.
Well, here's the thing. This is not as geared towards a desktop system. There are free BSD desktop operating systems, but because of they believe if you're using this system, you have more knowledge, ability. They depend on you more as a user to understand what you're doing to the computer versus a Windows system.
I see.
So there's certain functionality out of the box of the base BSD system you just don't get.
Right.
And for instance, Flash, there's no such thing as Flash on BSD that I know of. Just because they don't control it, it's not open, and it's filled with vulnerabilities. And this is the one, to be honest, a lot of like homegrown hackers were brought up on because they're comfortable with it. They know how to use it. And to be honest, it just works. The last one I'm going to talk about, I only had limited experience with, but I was honestly pretty happy with it. It's called a Smooth Wall.
The Express Open Source Firewall Project.
Mm-hmm. And I can tell you on at least when I was browsing their sites, if you go to About, that's where they have their screenshots. This one, to me, has grown up a lot since the last time I've used it, which was about, I would say, almost 5 years ago, maybe 3. I really appreciate what these people are doing with hardware, firewalls, and operating systems. Everybody I've mentioned, they've really stepped up. They've really made very intuitive interfaces to even the novice to be able to understand, comprehend the base of what's going on your network.
This doesn't look bad at all. Very cool.
Yeah. So to wrap it up in a nutshell, John, oh yeah, it's possible.
An hour-long nutshell.
An hour long. But I wanted to make sure that I didn't want to just one sentence answer him, because this is the kind of thing in my eyes where Linux beats Windows. I might get hate mail for saying that, but in my eyes, there is nothing on the market as strong, as secure, as reliable, as stable, and as full-featured as an open source unified threat management / firewall.
Hey, man, I think that was a great answer to that question, Dor. I mean, you covered the hell out of it. And those were a lot of cool things that he gave them options. That's all good stuff, it looks like, that's proven and working well. And it looks kind of fun, actually.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to say, if you want to take a good look at Untangle, Russ Winter's favorite video podcast is Hack 5. I believe it's still his favorite. They did a 2-part episode on setting up a custom Untangle box. One episode was strictly towards the hardware, and they used a mini ATX board, I believe. So they're able to put it in something the size of a router and hang it on the wall. And the other thing that they don't explain in great detail in the second episode is you can run this on a laptop. You can say my incoming connection is through the hardwired Ethernet, and my outbound connection is the wireless card on the laptop. So if you have an old laptop laying around too, this might be possible for that.
That's pretty neat. It's pretty geeky, but it sounds not efficient. But
dude, it's geeky. And I can tell you, for instance, one of the things they did on Hack 5 a couple years ago, Yassiger. Don't ask me how to spell it. I have no idea.
Sounds like an alcoholic beverage.
Well, it's a Swedish project, and they popularized on Hack 5 the thing called the Wi-Fi Pineapple. They take a faux NARA router, which was the router I believe Central American company was giving away for free. The gimmick is you would set it up in your house, it would have two channels of wireless access. One secured and encrypted, one not secured and encrypted. The not secured and encrypted had limited, it was throttled, so it didn't give full speed.
Okay.
The secured one did give you full speed. When you got the router, you joined their network. So you were then able to go anywhere in the world, and if you found a Fonera router, you could get full access to the internet via that router. The router also, by default, segmented your traffic and activity to where you still couldn't go someplace, access that router, and get access to that person's computer. So what they had,
it's a long shot. I mean, the only way it would be beneficial to you if like everybody bought one. That never seems to work out for me. But
no, it doesn't. I got one sitting over there. It ain't even connected.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, you don't believe me? I'll go get it. But here's what the hacker community did. They figured out how to replace the firmware on that little teeny device, get a little battery pack, take a fake pineapple, open it up, stick the battery pack and the Yasager inside there. And then what they would do is go to public places with this little battery operated pineapple, sit it on the table. Every operating system is vulnerable to this attack. I am connected to Door Geek. That's my ESSID, my wireless gateway name.
Mm-hmm.
If I take this laptop, not this laptop because this is hardwired. If I take another device outside the house and go to Starbucks, my computer is going to automatically broadcast, hey, is Door Geek here? Hey, is Door Geek here?
Right.
Trying to connect.
Mm-hmm.
Yasager says, oh, hello, I'm Door Geek. Oh, you expect this kind of encryption? Okay, I have this kind of encryption. What's your password? And then your computer blindly will transfer your password. Mac, Windows, Linux, Windows 7, doesn't matter. So then that person basically sits the pineapple in the middle of the store. Here's the really super smart thing that Yasager does. It has two clear channels of passive data. So your computer says, I'm looking for my home router. It says, I'm here. It connects. The other wireless signal then connects to the Starbucks connection, and then all the traffic goes through that Yasager router.
So the guy is on the internet.
Yes.
And
blindly to him, he just gave up his home network credentials.
Now, why would Yasager have to hook up to the internet? Just to give him the impression that he would be typing stuff in online so you could grab his information?
That was the second phase of what they did.
Right.
They made the second channel of data, the outgoing from that pineapple, then go into the wireless on a laptop.
Oh my God.
And then on the wireless on the laptop, they had a little USB wireless, and it would go out that to Starbucks. So then they could packet capture everything you did and get so many passwords. It was insane.
That is amazing. So if you go somewhere and you see a pineapple on the table, get the hell out.
Well, honestly, here's my rule of thumb. Any device that leaves my house, including my Android phone, I don't save my wireless adapters information.
I see. Oh.
Any laptop that leaves my house, I make sure I do not save.
So whenever you go Wi-Fi with your Droid X in your house, you have to enter in your password.
Mm-hmm.
You take that step and you go into the settings and on. You say, "This is my." All right.
Here's the only reason why it isn't painful. With the correct keyboard on Android, you can enter custom stuff, and then whenever you want it again, as long as you get remotely close to your shape, it fills it in for you.
Okay, I got you.
So that's the only plus to that.
All right.
Now what I've been doing for the last week is I've been testing an application to automatically disable my Wi-Fi when I walk out my door, and not turn it on again until I walk back in my door.
Has it been working?
Kind of. Because it'll be much easier for me, because what I don't want to do is forget to turn off my Wi-Fi and then walk around all day. because in anywhere I go, if somebody has a Yosker setup, I'm pwned.
Yeah, I know, I'm with you on that. I would like to turn off my Wi-Fi every time I leave my house. What's the app?
Location settings beta, I want to say it's called.
Didn't he email us? Yeah, he did.
I think he did.
I forwarded it to you, actually.
Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned it weeks ago.
Yeah. The developer emailed me, and he said I'd have to dig it up, Dor, but I think I put it on Android App Addicts show. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Chosen Software, that's the company, isn't it? Look, thank you for mentioning location settings in your podcast. I wanted to let you know it is now available with location and time, so you can control settings at home during the day and night differently. Thanks, Chosen Software.
Right, yeah, that's what I was looking at doing, was also saying weekdays, 7 a.m. disable Wi-Fi. So, maybe that would be enough. Cool. I got to play with it.
Yeah.
But the moral to the story is our basic home router might be working, but in all actuality, it's truly not enough. If you have router crashes, if you can't explain why traffic is slowing down on your network, if you share your network with other members of the household, if you just want a little bit more protection, if you want remote VPN capabilities, if you want unified threat management, Linux is your answer, and it's all completely free.
It's a good answer. For a minute there, I thought this is why I stopped listening to security now, because now I get worried. I'm worried about everything now.
Well,
it's good to know. I mean, some people would like to remain ignorant, but
well, driving in your car is much more dangerous than flying on a plane. I use my car every day. Right. Certain things in this world you cannot stop and think about.
Take the risk.
You just got to go with it. I'll just say, if you have an extra box laying around with one NIC in it, go spend $15, get a second NIC, toy with this stuff. I think, honestly, especially with a Starro and Untangle, you'll find it's not complex. It's not difficult. It's very doable.
Sounds good, man. It's beautiful, Dor.
And the very last link, Wikipedia list of router or firewall distributions is what it's called. And I can tell you, this is not even close to a complete list of choices. I believe one of them we mentioned is not on this list, and I can't remember which one it is. But this is a decent list of open source operating systems that you can go look at. Gives you a little bit of like a one-line project goal about what it is and how it works. Huh. I think it's good stuff.
It's awesome. So if you want to pick any other choices aside from what Dor mentioned here, you can check it out, Wikipedia. The title is called List of Router or Firewall Distributions.
Mm-hmm. Just cool. one super quickie I'll add. If you live in a resort town, for instance, or buy a vacation spot, I don't think it's free WRT. I think it's open WRT. You can install this on a computer as well, but if you get a Linksys WRT 54GL router, not a WRT 54G, but a GL router, you can install OpenWrt and configure it automatically, very few clicks, to say, if you don't know the proper password, redirect to this page. And this page lives on your router. And this page is like you go walk up to a hotel and try to connect, and it says, hello, welcome to Steve's Wi-Fi. The home of internet access for the greater Joppatown area. If you do request internet access, please follow this link, and it will lead them through a step-by-step process of entering their credit card and being granted via MAC address access to the internet. So you can pimp yourself out.
That's awesome. That's great.
Trust me, if I lived anywhere by where tourists were or anything, I'd be doing this.
That's awesome. Just like have it there just as, a separate income source,
Right. And no work, no effort. And when you want to stop and play Call of Duty on your Xbox, you can simply disable that service on your router and go about your business.
I'm all about no work. All right. Well, we don't have any emails. Actually, the email that was from John, we don't have any more than that. And what I want to say is if you guys do want to email us, you can mail us at mail@podnutz.com. But most of your questions are for Dor, so you could email them directly if you want, right, Dor? Is that all right with you?
Absolutely. And I'll also say if you want to send us a voicemail, you can dial from Podnut.
Why did you say it like that?
Because I can never remember. It's into my phone. I can't remember.
Okay.
It's like 7076 Podnut.
It is a 7076 Podnut if you want to leave us a voicemail. Just call us up on a regular phone, leave a voicemail. We will play it and we will answer it. But Dor's email address is doortodoorgeek@gmail.com. So you could send him an email there. All right. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Dor, anything you want to say before we end off? Anything you want to pimp or plug or say?
The only thing I'll pimp is I'll say I've been getting a little bit more active on Twitter. Some of the people are liking my post, and I've actually had people retweet things I've been tweeting, which has never happened before.
That's good. And what's your Twitter?
Door to Door Geek.
Okay. So twitter.com/door-to-door-geek if you want to Twitter them. And guys, I think that's going to be it for the show. Hope you liked it. Thank you, Dor. And thank everybody for tuning in, watching, listening, streaming, whatever you're doing. That's going to be it for Linux for the rest of us for today. See you next time.